What if we told you that the tennis racket you just bought isn't the racket you think it is? It might say Pro Staff or Pure Drive or Radical on the frame. It might be the exact model your favorite player endorses. But here's the truth. The pros aren't using that racket. In fact, they never have. You can't buy a real tennis racket. Not the one Novak uses, not Rafa, not Alcaraz, not even close. Because the rackets the pros use, they're custom built behind the scenes, quietly known as pro stock rackets. And unless you're deep in the game, you've probably never even seen one. Except when you go to the matches yourself. So let's pull back the curtain and take a look at what pro stocks really are. So let's get the terminology straight. When you walk into a store or browse online, you're buying a retail racket. That's the off-the-shelf version, mass-produced, mass-marketed, most likely endorsed by a pro, maybe even marketed as if the pros are using it. But here's where things get murky. They're not what they say they are. The racket used by a pro is often a completely different frame under the same paint job. It's called a pro stock racket. It might have the same cosmetics, but it's not the same mold, not the same weight, not the same balance, and not the same materials even. It's like seeing a Ferrari body wrapped around a Toyota engine. Or buying Michael Jordan shoes only to realize the ones he played in were custom made with totally different spec. Even the flex of the racket, the way it bends and responds on contact, can be different. And it's not just technical, it's intentional. Pros aren't using rackets that look like their old ones, they're literally using older rackets under the skin of new ones. Federer's early career, he used a 90 square inch pro staff. Novak, his racket isn't a Speed Pro, it's a custom built PT113B. Murray, still using an old head Pro Tour 630 mold painted to look like a Radical. So the question becomes, why? Well, let's break down the specific differences between retail and pro stock rackets. The layup is how carbon fiber layers are arranged inside the racket. Pro stock rackets can have totally different stiffness, flex, and feel, even if they look the same on the outside. A retail Pure Drive, it's stiff and powerful. A pro stock Pure Drive, it might be tuned to be more flexible, arm-friendly, or stable at contact. Some pro rackets aren't even based on the advertised mold at all. Retail rackets vary due to factory tolerances. One might weigh 312 grams, another 319, even if they're the same model. But a pro stock racket, it's customized down to the exact gram. They'll specify static weight, which is the total weight unstrung, balance point, how head heavy or head light it is, swing weight, how heavy it feels to swing. Pros demand exact repeatability, so their backups feel identical to the one that they were just using. And that brings us to precision matching. So pro players often order 4 to 10 frames at a time. Each one is precisely matched, so when they break a string mid-match, the next racket feels exactly the same, minus the tension chains. Retail frames? Not even close. You could have a 5 to 10 gram variance between two rackets you bought off the shelf. Pro rackets often come as a raw hairpin frame, just the bare carbon mold, then the handle is built up to a specific shape using a pallet system. Novak uses a very rectangular grip, for example. Nadal used a more rounded one. Some players want smaller grip sizes, some add leather, over grips to build custom feel. Take a look at Richard Gasquet's grip, for example. And you can't get this in retail. Pros don't just tape lead to the outside. They inject silicone inside the handle, or foam inside the frame, to deaden vibration, change weight, or tweak the balance. We're sure you've seen a lot of professional players play without a shock absorber, and you may be wondering, how does their racket not reverberate through their whole arm? Well, they may just happen to have silicone or foam on the inside of the frame. Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this breakdown, take a second to subscribe to the channel. We go deep into the parts of tennis that no one else talks about. Gear myths, player psychology, messed up tournament politics. If it's happening in tennis and nobody's saying it out loud, we're gonna say it here. So hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and let us know in the comments if you've ever wondered why your racket just doesn't feel like what the pros use. Alright, back to it. Now here's the biggest deception: cosmetics, or the paint jobs for a lack of a better term. Brands want you to think Federer plays with the same racket you can buy. So what do? They paint the pro's racket to look like the current retail model, even if it's not. That's why Novak's black and white head speed looks like the retail version identically, when in reality, it's a decades-old mold. This is called a paint job. And if you've ever seen a pro wielding what looks like a brand new frame days after it's released, odds are they've been using it all along. It's just finally being sold to the public. Let's be clear, retail rackets aren't bad. They're designed for mass usability. They're lighter, more forgiving, easier to swing, and friendlier for your joints. If you gave the average 3.5 player a pro stock racket, well, they'd hate it. It'd be too heavy, sluggish, harder on the arm. It would have an unforgiving sweet spot. Most recreational players benefit more from adjusting their strings in tension, adding a little lead tape strategically, or picking a racket that suits their swing, not one endorsed by their favorite pro. A pro stock racket is not better than a retail tennis racket. Remember, it's different. It's better for a certain kind of player, sure, but worse for others. Now let's go through some real-life examples of pro stock deception. Andy Murray. He uses a PT57A, a 25-year-old head pro tour mold, painted to look like a Radical, but it's actually the same frame he's used since juniors. Novak's racket looks like the Headspeed Pro, but it's a PT113B, based on the early 2000s iRadical. Custom layup, balanced silicone-filled handle, extended grip palette, and probably so many more adjustments. Federer? Interestingly, his Pro Staff RF97 autograph is almost identical to the retail version. He even helped Wilson develop it. And it's one of the few pro-endorsed rackets actually available in a true form. Alcaraz reportedly uses a retail pure aero versus with weight and balance customization, but not a full-blown pro stock mold, a bit of a hybrid case. Dominic Thiem, he used a custom layup of the Babolat Pure Strike with the added foam, handle mods, and silicone. So you may be wondering, well, can I get a pro stock racket? So the short answer is maybe. You can't just buy them at regular retail shops. They're distributed through player connections, custom racket services, eBay resellers, sometimes with fakes, tour level stringers. Expect to pay $300 to $600 for a used one, sometimes more. And no guarantee it fits your game, obviously. These frames are built for elite players with elite timing. Most of us are better off with a solid, well-strung, slightly customized retail racket. So what's the takeaway here? Well, you can't buy a real tennis racket, or at least not the one your favorite pro is using, because that racket, it's custom built, it's fine-tuned, it's often decades old, hiding under fresh paint. And that's okay. Retail rackets are designed for us, the club players, the weekend warriors, the passionate amateurs. They're lighter, easier, safer, and just more fun. But if you're chasing the ultimate feel, the crispest contact, the holy grail of power and control, then welcome to the rabbit hole of pro stock rackets. Just know what you're getting into. Let us know what you think in the comments. Did you know that those rackets that the pros are using aren't even the ones that you can pick up? See you next time.